So just tell us what do we define as a disability?
Well, I'll put it in this sense. So disability, everybody defines it differently because of the type of experiences. But then when we look at the categories, so there's two main categories. You can say the mental, and then as well as the physical aspect of it. Okay,
so in your opinion, would you say that the society is expecting people with disabilities to adjust to how the other people live, or it's the other way around?
Okay, one last question from my side, right? So what is the employer's responsibility? You hire a person who is fine, who's probably a driver.
Yeah.
They get into an accident, they lose both legs, right? Their job is driving. They need the two legs to drive.
I'm thinking, well,
I'm trying to think because I know where you're going. So I'm trying to think, is there a car? Because I know you.
So, you see, the thing is, if somebody comes here with a wheelchair and everybody's looking at them, they'll become uncomfortable because of them. They're not getting the same treatment as everybody else who's coming into the door, and we don't mind them. So continuous training and continuous knowledge of what is disability and how to accommodate and all that, then people will become aware, and it will not become a shock when somebody says, I have this type of disability.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Couch Talk with LHS. I am your host, Mpele, and today I am with Zanele Buthelezi, as always. I think we should stop introducing ourselves because we're always here. And we are joined by Mr. Jimmy Makgethe, who is an admitted attorney. Jimmy, how are you?
Fine, thanks, and you?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So then we're touching on the topic. We've had discussions previously, right, on this particular topic, and I found it suitable maybe for us to have a discussion on it because it was a bit interesting. So I thought let's just elaborate and talk about it a little bit more. So we're talking about disabilities, right?
Yes.
So disabilities not specifically only in the workplace, but just in general,
Yeah.
right? So before we start, just tell us what do we define as a disability?
Well, I'll put it in this sense. So disability, everybody defines it differently because of the type of experiences. But we can say in simple terms, disability is an umbrella term that is used to define impairment, activity limitation, and we'll say performance limitations or restrictions. So it's just, I'll say that when we say somebody with disability, that is somebody who has some sort of impairment to a certain extent, either could be physically or could be mentally. So that when we define disability, we're talking about the impairment that a particular person has.
Okay. Before we talk, because I want us to talk about, accommodating people with disabilities in the workplace, because we're talking about inclusion. So what does that entail, right? As an HR professional, there's an EEA1, you know about it, that you complete, right, for the Department of Labor.
Yeah.
So on that EEA1, it states, the person, their race, gender, and then it also states whether the person is disabled or not. If yes, you select yes, then you select or you identify the type of disability, right?
Yeah.
On those EEA1s, am I forced to declare my disability at work?
Okay, so in simple terms, we'll say no. Okay, you're not forced to declare your disability, but what happens is when your disability will have substantial limitation to your particular work that you'll be doing, then it would be important for you to declare that particular thing. For an example, if let's say for my eyesight, because I'm visually impaired. So if I know that I'm going to do a lot of reading, which is it's going to perhaps do small invoices or slips that the font might be small, then it will be important for me to express that to the employer so that they could be able to do or give me a reasonable accommodation. So it could be something like magnifying glasses or making or having a scanner so that I can scan the necessary documentation and then have it on the screen and enlarging it. So it depends on the situation, but in actual fact you're not forced to declare, but only when it will impact your particular work that you are employed for, then you can declare.
Okay, that's very important because I mean, as an employee, you've got a responsibility to tell us in order for the employer to have reasonable accommodation. Because if the employer doesn't know, then it's very difficult for them to try and assist the employees. So we have certain. Let's start with listing the disabilities. What sort of disabilities would we classify as? I'm just trying to find the right term.
Yeah. So let's start off here. So when we talk about disability, it's important to not say disabled people, okay, but to say people with
disabilities.
Okay. So, but then when we look at the categories, so there's two main categories. You can say the mental, and then as well as the physical aspect of it. Okay. So then it goes on. We can break it up to other categories, which is, I'll just name a few for instance. It's the visual impairment, it's the deaf and hearing impairment, then it's the mental health condition, then we have the progressive chronic illnesses, and then we have those the injury to or the brain injuries that we have, and we can also do the physical disability of people. So those are just some of the categories that we can have, but then it's the term is ever evolving, so there would be other things that will come into place. It's just that there are certain things that due to public policy we cannot define them as a disability. For an example, let's say somebody who drinks a lot, or maybe somebody who is a gambler. So those type of things, yes, it's an impairment to a certain extent, but then because of public policy, we don't define them as a person with disability, or they wouldn't characterize it.
Yeah. Can I just maybe, not for the sake of being ignorant, but I just want to, because we've seen this when we do recruitment, certain people don't declare, right? Specifically when it comes to mental disability, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't see it, I don't have to declare, and then there's certain things that happen in the workplace. So how does the employer deal with such thing? If, let's say, for example, we're looking for a teacher, these people are working with children. They've got some sort of mental disability, they don't want to declare, they're doing certain things that are just not done, and only to declare at a later stage.
You see, the thing is, if people become comfortable, then they'll be able to talk about it, okay? But if people are not comfortable, then, we are more closed because of being afraid of being judged, or, what they might say, they might not accept me, and all those things. So when, let's say, somebody with a disability that comes through to that particular workplace, the first thing that we look at would be, is there accommodation regarding a person with a disability? Now, first off, we start off by the parking lot, okay? So the parking lot, is there a parking lot that has a parking space for somebody with a disability? If there isn't, then okay, red flag one, okay? Then we're going into the door, okay? So is there a ramp that assists somebody either who is physically impaired, is there a ramp where they can utilize it? Okay, there isn't. Now going inside the entrance of it, is it open for that particular person to be able to be mobile, you know, people with crutches, or it's just a narrow passage and all those things. So those types of things are important to when somebody starts to say, can I disclose or not, you know? And I think it also, if you have the necessary signs up regarding either disabilities or, you know, the wheelchair signs and the bathrooms, you know, when we go to interviews, we start off saying, can I go to the bathroom? And they direct you to the bathroom. You get there, you see, okay, it's only these single bathrooms. There isn't bathrooms that accommodate people who are physically impaired. Then those types of things, you kind of say, can I, should I, and then you end up saying maybe it's not the right time to disclose at that particular time, and then we become closed regarding that particular disclosure. But at the end of the day, as I said, disclosure is a voluntary thing that they can do. So it's, I think if the necessary workplace that has that type of discussions, ongoing training, then employees will feel free and they will approach the employer to discuss more. It's just raising awareness, I'll say.
That's very important, because at times, I mean, you know, you need to educate your employees on certain topics, on certain issues. You need to, you know, because change management is very important in terms of dealing with such things. And what you mentioned about observing certain things when you go for an interview, we say this sometimes to companies, that it's not only about the company assessing the candidate, it's about the candidate assessing from when I enter the workplace or the company, what do I see? Is this the environment where I can fit in? Because such things are important, you know, to certain candidates.
Yeah, it's a very, the thing is, it's a very sensitive discussion, and I mean, even in interviews, the employer becomes withdrawn from asking that particular question because of they don't want to offend the employee or the candidate, I'll call it then, and the candidate as well doesn't want to destroy the potential of them having that particular job, because of they don't know if they are going to get accommodated or not, because of sometimes employers think that the accommodation that the person would need might be an expensive process, so therefore they would cut their losses. So I think employers just need to be careful, and it's a thin line. Look, if you tell somebody that you can't employ them because of their disability.
That's exactly. I think that's why employers don't want to ask such things, because of the answer that you're gonna get. Then if you don't take them, now it's gonna be you didn't employ them based on, so it's discrimination.
Yeah, hence it's a sensitive one. So you'll wait out on how you can ask the question. I wouldn't say tell the person to disclose their disability, but you can phrase your question in the sense of saying, is there any impairments that we should know of so that we can be able to assist you? Then perhaps in that particular sense, the person might disclose, because of then you are offering assistance. Unlike them just saying, I have this, and then it's like an open-ended thing, and then you know, you don't know how they're going to respond, if they're going to assist or not. So I think the discussion should be a little bit soft, with you know, with caution, but try and raise or have that discussion going with the candidate, and then you should be fine. You know?
And you know what? It's interesting what he just said right now, because I'm thinking disabilities is something that we live with. It's not something that is new. It has been there for years, and by now you would think we would be at a place where things are made simpler. Because even if you don't have employees with disabilities, you might have visitors with disabilities. You might have suppliers that have employees with disabilities and so forth. So it's not made easier for people living with disabilities. So in your opinion, would you say that the society is expecting people with disabilities to adjust to how the other people live, or it's the other way around?
The thing is, people have different expectation for different people, and so you expect me to do, let's say for an example, they expect me to finish something at the same time as somebody who is not impaired or who doesn't have that impairment. So you can't expect me to run downstairs in 5 minutes and come back if I'm physically impaired. Okay, so there needs to be that time. So I think people just need to be considerate when it comes to expectations. So hence I said in the beginning, we don't say disabled people because of, it's not that we disabled, we can't do it totally. It's just that we can do it, but then there might be some modifications that needs to happen for us to be able to get to that point or to do that particular task. So well, there'll always be expectations to live according to how we do things or whatsoever, but I mean, we just need to be realistic regarding expectations because of it's different for each particular person. So, but that is what it is.
You know, when you're talking like this, I'm just thinking, right? Because you mentioned that it's a sensitive topic, and yes, it is a sensitive topic because you try and watch your words, right? In terms of this particular discussion and how you do things. And at times with human beings, if you see somebody who's impaired, we are quick to try and assist without asking if the person would want assistance or not. Because that's just human nature, it's a reflex, you know. That spirit of Ubuntu must just show. But how can we as society deal with such things? In my opinion, I'm thinking, I need to help, but it might not necessarily be what the person wants.
Yeah, look, I don't want to say we because then it sounds like I'm speaking for everybody else, but people with disability just wants to be treated the same, okay? So perhaps you see me struggling to walk up the stairs, but it doesn't mean that you should help, so hence I think the first step would be to ask before you help, and then to think first before you react, and be sensitive to physical touches, because of people sometimes they're walking with crutches, so you might want to hold them and they'll lose their particular balance. So and there's this thing of where when people meet somebody with a disability, they're afraid to act normal, in the sense of, we are used to the handshake, okay? So people come and somebody has these crutches and they say, okay, hi, how are you? And then they leave it as it is. They don't do the handshake, and they might do it to somebody else. Well, that on its own will kind of discourage that particular person, because of then it seems that you are treating them a little bit different and they want to be treated the same. So whether it's the right hand side, or perhaps if they can't do the right hand side, do the left hand side. But if they get the same treatment as everybody else, then that will at least lighten up their day, because of people with disability face a lot of challenges.
We can imagine, Hence we're saying it's very difficult for, employees in the company to try and, engage, because you don't know what to say. You don't know if you would be saying the wrong thing. But others would want to be treated as normal. Like you said, I might do the exact same thing that you're able to do, but it may take me longer, or I might do it in a different way. Can I just share an experience? With one of my clients, we've once appointed a teacher who was on a wheelchair. So beginning, we obviously very sensitive again, we need to make sure that we've accommodated. So we had a session after the interview, we had a session starting from the gate, having a look, so taking her through. From the gate, where do you go, ramp into the classroom. Obviously the boards are a bit higher, you know, and then we had to lower the boards just to make sure that she's comfortable. The teacher wanted to be, that accommodation she appreciated, to a point where she took up a challenge of saying, make me a PE teacher. Well, that's you have to be all around, but she did it, whereas she used other objects and she used learners.
The thing is, when she said, and I can assume that when she said make me a PE teacher, you guys were like,
no, obviously it's a normal reaction.
How is that going to work? You know,
Yes.
so it's that type of thing. I think if you have the necessary training,
Yes.
or continuous training, it shouldn't be like a once-off thing and then you think because of you had that. So if you continuously train people regarding disability in the workplace and you do the necessary assessments and all that, then when somebody says make me this type of, or let me have this type of position, you wouldn't get baffled or surprised at that particular thing because of you have that knowledge of that they can actually, but then there would be some adjustment. Perhaps
Yes.
then the question
Yeah.
would be, okay, no, that's well and done, but then where can we assist in regards to you
Exactly.
doing that? And then
Exactly.
that on its own appears to that you have knowledge about people with disability and you understand that they're not disabled, they can do it, so it's just a matter of where can you assist and all that. So and then we come back to those questions of thinking first before you
Before
ask
you can
and
ask,
then
exactly.
all those things. So it's it's just, I think, and maybe also for me, I mean, I'm part of the people with a disability, but sometimes we get you know, not shocked, but I'm looking for a better word, but when you see somebody with a disability, like, oh, is there this, you know, like, if you haven't seen somebody in a wheelchair in a very long time, when you see them, you're like, you kind of want to see what's happening and all those things. I think if it's a continuous learning thing, then, you know, when you see somebody with a disability, you wouldn't get shocked or want to see
Because
them
it's
on a
not
regular
part of,
because,
yeah.
you see, the thing is, if somebody comes here with a wheelchair and everybody's looking at them, they'll become uncomfortable because of then they're not getting the same treatment as everybody else who's coming into the door, and we don't mind them. So continuous training and continuous knowledge of what is disability and how to accommodate and all that, then, you know, people will become aware and it will not become a shock when somebody says I have this type of disability. I mean, for an example, I had a client that came through and the child was I don't know if it's a brain disability. So the child, I think it's autism, they call it. So the child can make sounds out of their own, but it's not that they want to make the sound, but it's the particular impairment. So I mean, when I had the child making those sounds, because of I'm aware of particular disabilities, it wasn't a shock. But you know, when the child keeps on making sounds, some other people might think, why is that child making noise and all those things. So it's just becoming aware of certain things, then you would understand and you'll be able to accommodate, because of whether you know that somebody has a disability or not, you encounter those particular people on a daily basis. And sometimes we don't talk to you about it because of we don't know how you'll react, and sometimes you talk about people with disability in front of other people and they hear how your perspective of people with a disability, then it becomes very difficult for them to come through to you. So we just always need to think before we speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just, you know, educating people in the workplace or in society at large is very important, because sometimes when you don't see something often or on a daily basis, it's a bit distant. You don't know how to handle it. So like you're saying, with the education, with, you know, constantly reminding, you can have posters, have different initiatives, because we're talking about inclusivity in the workplace, have different initiatives, then that just makes things a bit easier.
Yeah, it's, you know, the standard, I mean, I'm just thinking of these stories that we watch every day. It's rare to see anybody with a disability in those particular stories. So they're not promoting it in the sense of getting people to become used to it. We become shocked when we see somebody with a disability. I mean, once in a while we see maybe somebody, an albino on TV, and it becomes a shock because now we're seeing that particular person. But if it becomes a regular thing and they implement it in in the stories, then perhaps that could also, ease us when we see people with disabilities.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
Totally agree with you. Because even when HIV and AIDS started, it was like no one wanted to associate themselves with people with HIV and AIDS up until people were educated, and the more education there was, then people became comfortable, and it became a norm. It was just one of those sicknesses that are there, and we get used to it. You are right when you're saying that television plays a crucial role, because if not all of us, most of us watch television.
For many hours.
Yes. So when we see these disabilities and the types of disabilities that are there, we get informed, we get the knowledge. When the story that you just explained right now with the child making sounds, when that happens, we already know what that is, and we already know how to handle such situations if you are in the situation. Even if you want to use your reflex and assist, where do I start? Do I ask? Do I just assist because I'm thinking maybe this person does need assistance? Am I offending? Sometimes you made a crucial point also when you said you might be touching the person, but the person doesn't want to be touched. Maybe you're touching the wrong side. You are hurting them. That information is very important.
Yeah, well, at this particular time, I do understand the HIV and awareness, and it's good. It's just, the thing is, with people with disability, we're getting mocked, or they get mocked for their disability.
Specifically with the mental disability, because I was going to ask you about, a disability that is taken more seriously than the other. So a physical impairment you can see, now you're sensitive to it. Yeah. Mental, you get mocked, things like that, which play a crucial role because you don't know what you're doing to that person.
Yeah, the thing is, we are at that point where when something is wrong to us, then it's a disability. So hence people get, we'll say, characterized by their disability, which is, it's a problem. I mean, when we call somebody, you might say, and you're like, that one with the big head, or that one that acts up, or something like that. So it's always, we're still very far from that particular aspect where people with disability will get accepted in the community. Yes, I'm not saying all the communities don't accept. There are those that accept, but some, they might say it's witchcraft and all those other things. So we're still a long way, but I think as time goes and with more awarenesses that happens, and then we should come right. But we still are a long way from that. I haven't seen. I think I've seen, no, I haven't seen actually any disclosures on social medias, like on, let's say on TikTok, where people are talking about their disabilities. I mean, when I was studying this topic of disabilities, I had to go on YouTube, type in people with disability, and I wasn't really finding like a lot of things because of it's not yet out there. So I think, yeah, there would be more training that is needed, and hence the companies now are required to also do these types of assessments, hence the form that you spoke about, the EE. But I mean, as you said, you had to start from the gate assessing with that particular thing. It shouldn't be the case when, because of now we're getting a candidate, now let's assess.
Try, yes.
It should be that thing of saying, okay, we are going to have employees. Now let's start off looking at the necessary assessments that we need. What reports do we need? How do we gather information? Those types of things. So you should have the necessary team to have it, But I mean, employers just hire and then they go as things go, and which is sometimes it can be a little bit difficult and risky, because of then somebody might see them that you are discriminating because of now the workplace does not accommodate, and where else now you don't have the right team that knows how to accommodate the people. And yeah, it's going to be very difficult for employers that do not come along and learn about disability, because of there's a lot of cases of the discrimination in the workplace. I mean, I had one client that when she went on maternity leave, the employer wanted to terminate her before she came back. Now, that on its own, it's a very a risky process for the employer to do that, especially when somebody was on maternity leave and all those things. So, but employers don't know that, and they just hire perhaps somebody who's not really familiar with the labor laws, but then, you know, it's they risk at the end of the day if they don't get the necessary right people who has the necessary skills to accommodate.
We might find that there are employers that would want to have employees with or people with disability in the workplace, right, to start, but they don't know how to start. For example, with, you know, at the beginning, because you can't just get somebody there. There's certain pre-work that has to happen. So how can you advise what needs to happen just to make sure that, you know, when a candidate comes through, they're already comfortable and they're seeing to them what is basic, and to the current employer that doesn't have might be something that I need to work on.
Well, you'll start off by legislations, you know, so you need somebody who knows the necessary legislations that will cover you. So you need somebody who is more familiar with Employment Equity Act, where there's certain things that you need to do, and it also talks about what if you do these types of things, it will amount to discrimination, and what is discrimination. So hence companies need to employ an employment equity rep or representative who specializes in that particular field to be able to guide the company. Hence we have also the health and safety teams, because of then you need to have people that will be looking at the environment in the workplace to say, is this safe, is this not safe, and all those. So having the right team will help you to get to that particular place where you can have the necessary assessments, and your assessments will be compliant with the necessary legislations. So hence you have the employment equity analysis that you need to do on a yearly basis, and the plan of how you plan to employ those particular people with disability, what number or what percentages you might have. But I mean, it's an ongoing process, so you will need all these people, health and safety, employment equity rep, HR, that will be working together to be able to get you to that point where employing somebody with disability will not be something that is hard for you, but then it will something be easier. I mean, there are other companies that do learnerships, you know, so you can communicate with those particular companies and have that discussion. But at the end of the day, teamwork and having the right team in the workplace is important. But I mean, some people don't.
Yeah, but I think you're also telling something that's very important, that, you know, if you are looking for a specific person, also look at the specific type of disability that you can accommodate within the working environment and for that particular task.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so that we're also not setting up people for failure. I mean, I'm just going to go back to that teacher. You know, she requested to be a PE teacher. We didn't just throw her in there and say, okay, fine, do best, you know, and you must actually make it. There's certain accommodations, certain assistance that she got, and there was monitoring that was taking place as well, just so that we're not setting her up for failure. Yes.
Yeah, I think people just need to understand reasonable accommodation doesn't mean that the company needs to go over above and spend like a whole lot of money. But then if, let's say, reasonable accommodation is kind of becoming costly or can become costly, then there needs to be that type of discussion with that particular person on saying that this fees might be very high for us. Is there somewhere where we can decrease, or is there somewhere where you can assist it to a certain extent? And I think if people have that type of discussion, then it will be, I think the employee will appreciate it, and they will do what they need to do to be able to accommodate the employer, and the employer will have. And this is where you want to have this relationship with your employer and employee, because if there's trust, then you know, things will become smoother. But then if there isn't, then there would be this obstacles that you'll face along the way, and you run the risk of either somebody lodging a grievance regarding discrimination in the workplace, because now you have either managers that are not aware of disabilities, and they offend the person with disability. I mean, for an example, I go to a bank and they ask me to fill in forms, and sometimes the forms are very small. I can't read them, so I'm like, can you help me complete these forms? And I mean, we get this everywhere. Somebody might say in their response to say, no, complete it, you can see, just complete it. Now, you know, and then now I have to come back and disclose to them so that they can understand where my situation is, you know. At this particular time, I don't really disclose. I'm like, if you want my handwriting, if you want my handwriting on the document, then I'm good. If you think that you're going to write it. But then I guess then they come and say, no, okay, since you can't write properly, in the sense of saying my handwriting is bad, I write like a doctor and all those things, then they would write for me and then complete the necessary form. But sometimes we are forced to disclose our disability because of the response that we're getting. It just needs a little bit more explanation so that they can understand. And yeah, hence I'm saying we still need more training.
I agree with you 100% because I mean customer service in that aspect is very key, Leona, in the sense that if somebody were to say, please help me, I mean, I'm just not trying to be funny or it might be a language barrier that I don't understand the form, so how am I going to give you the correct information? It might be in your case that the writing is so small, I mean, I'm just not trying to be funny, please help, I really need assistance.
Yeah, well, we get these obstacles everywhere, whether you, and I'm not bad shaming anybody, but we get it. Whether you go to the police station and you're getting forms or whatsoever, you'll get mostly harsh responses. It's whether can't you write for yourself or can't you read what's written there. Or whatsoever. But you know, at the end of the day, just people need to think before they respond. But I mean, we get people who had other problems and then they bring those problems in the workplace, and hence now you go to a clinic and you hear people getting shouted in the clinic, and some people, their illnesses are disclosed. You might say, hey, you with HIV, one side, like, all those things. So it's a matter of training, and I think if employers will start understanding that the starting point of training and be putting that awareness of people and the necessary disclosures, that you can't just disclose somebody's disability without their consent, and you know, the processing of that type of information, then people will start understanding that you know, you need to start treating people with respect and courtesy. But I mean, we still are a long way.
So what are some of the initiatives, because we spoke about, you know, creating some of these awareness, or reasonable accommodation doesn't have to be expensive, you know, for people or employers that are not sure where to go or how to start. So what are some of the initiatives that they can use to create awareness in the workplace?
Well, as I said, you first need the right people who would handle that particular job.
But that goes into big corporates. Let's talk about people where I don't necessarily have all those departments, right? I know I don't necessarily have, I mean, we still have companies that have 50 plus employees with no HR department, no occupational health and safety as an example. So if they would want to start, you know, with not the right people, but where do they start is, you know, just initiatives that they can take them to the correct.
Look, the thing is, whether you are a big or a small company, you still need somebody that knows what they are doing. So if you want to do it yourself, there's going to be a lot of learning, reading, and all those things, and sometimes you want things to be done now. So hence, you don't have to employ a lot of people who can do that, but then you can get one individual who specializes in that particular thing. So it's always, the starting point will always get somebody who knows that particular thing. If not, then if you want to do it yourself, then you need to first learn the necessary rules and regulations, so that when you start doing those particular reports or assessments, then you know where to go about it. I mean, like for instance, if you ask somebody, now you want to start doing the health and safety, you don't know how many meters away from the building the smoking area needs to be and all those things. So now you first have to read up on those things. So if you want things to be done now, then perhaps start by getting the right people, or maybe if not getting the right people, maybe you are suffering with regards to finances, then perhaps consult with somebody that knows, that can tell you this is what you need to do, this is how you need to do, and then from there you can start implementing that. So I would say it's either consulting or start employing that particular person, or have that person temporary even to do that particular task, and then so that you can move on. But as time goes, you always need help, because of this thing is not a once-off thing that you can do. So it's an ongoing thing, so you need somebody who will tell you, okay, in 6 months you need to look at this, you need to review your plan. In 6 months, how many people have you employed, and when you're employing these people, are you in line with your employment equity? Where is the promotion scales here? How are you moving about it, and all those things. So it's an ongoing process. So if you do it yourself, there's going to be a lot of work for you, because of now you might want to focus on other things, and hence people have different departments for different things, because of it becomes a lot for one person to be handling ER and then HR and then payroll.
But we do in small companies. We run around like headless chickens.
We all the departments in one.
And at times you would want to do things right, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, I do not have a human resource department, so I'm just going to let it go, that's my excuse. I want to do things right, so what role do I play? How do I come about and say, okay, fine, this is the direction that I want to take, so where do I start? So that's...
Let's do, well, we can do it in this way. So in the first place, you need to start looking at a disability. Now, is there a disability? Now, in order for you to do that, you look at three things. Is there an impairment? That is the first thing that you need to look at. Now, is the impairment long-term or recurring? Okay, and then the third thing is that is there a substantial limitation? Okay, so if all these things meet together, then it means that there is a disability. So those are the assessments that you need to look at regarding disability. You look at all these three things. Now, the long-term aspect will look at, they say that it's about 1 year. So hence, you see, when somebody goes to apply at these grants, you start, they assess you, and after a year it lapses. You have to go and reapply. So when they say long term, they don't mean 5 years. They're not going to give it to you 5 years or lifetime. Yes, you have a disability that is a lifetime, but they look at 1 year, and hence you keep on coming back. So there's always this assessment. So with recurring, it comes and goes, and there's those ones that are progressive. As it comes and goes, it becomes more. And so hence with people with visually impaired, their eyesight either deteriorate as time goes, so that is progressive disability, or you have those, I read this interesting article, they was talking about if somebody is have an eyesight problem and they wear glasses and it doesn't impair them anymore because of now they can see properly, then they don't fall under people with disability anymore, because of now that particular glasses has removed that particular impairment. So it's hence it's an evolving aspect of disability, but it's a very interesting aspect, and as you read, you get to learn more and learn people. Now, hence there's a video that I was watching of this lady that was talking about that you see me here sitting here on this chair, wheelchair, and with my we'll say impairment, and then you think that I am an inspiration to you. You want me to give you motivation or all those things, and which is it's what people expect. They come up to you and they say, wow, you are very strong because of your disability, you went through all these obstacles, but it's things that I didn't have control over, so I had to go through that. So I don't want to be your inspiration or motivation to you, and hence you find these pictures of either people that might have, they don't have a hand and they say, you are better because of you have two hands and all those things. So they use those type of things to motivate other people. And we'll say it's sad that they're using that to motivate others, because of then, at the end of the day, that particular person just wants to be normal. But now they are using him as an obstacle to be motivation for somebody else, and people become ignorant that disability is different. They could be that reading, and some people don't, but then if because of their impairment they can't read, they see other people's disability and they start mocking it. And I mean, we have people that have disabilities that mock other people with disabilities. So it's very tough out here.
I guess it's the human nature. It's just one of those things where we just need to get educated about certain topics.
Well, I don't know how we're going to go about it, but the only process is
Creating the awareness.
training. Awareness. But if they don't, then, well, we're still a long way.
Okay, one last question from my side, right? So what is the employer's responsibility? You hire a person who is fine, who's probably a driver.
Yeah.
They get into an accident, they lose both legs, right? Their job is driving. They need the two legs to drive.
I'm thinking, well,
I'm trying to think because I know where you're going. So I'm trying to think, is there a car? Because I know you.
So, I mean, yes, we could look at a lot of things now. Was the disability caused during the employment or after hours and all
after hours?
So at the end of the day, that particular person, there is that we'll say disability or impairment. So now you need to start having the necessary discussions with that particular person on where can we assist. It's not to say that because of now somebody doesn't have both their legs, they are not able to drive and all those things. But I mean, it also depends on what does the work require. Am I driving only, or am I driving and offloading and all those things? So you can look at it and see, is there any reasonable accommodation? Sometimes the reasonable accommodation can be that you're saying, okay, because of there might be offloading, and it might be let's say boxes, and it will be very difficult for that particular person to be picking up boxes. Perhaps you're going up the stairs because of other clients don't have those assessments or places to accommodate those particular individuals with impairment. You might want to say, okay, how about, is there any other alternative positions that we can look at in the workplace? Perhaps to be a fleet manager, not really manager, but a fleet assistant, or somebody a route coordinator or whatsoever, so that you are able to accommodate that person. Because of it's not to say that now they don't have legs, now there's nothing they can do, now they need to go at home and all those things. So hence we'll always come back to the discrimination route of, so everything that you do, you need to be able to consult with somebody who specializes in that, who would be able to advise you accordingly and to be able to take the necessary discussion. So talking consensus between the employer and employee is very important, so that at the end of the day you can have things documented. Because of now you find individuals or companies that have this telephone talks, and now they start doing other things without documenting that, and then at the end of the day that particular employee starts opening a case either for unfair labor practice or either discrimination or whatsoever, and then you find yourself saying that, but we had this discussion but then it wasn't documented. So it's always important, especially in this time era, document everything that you have with your employer. And if not documented, have it either on a recording. It's either virtual on Teams or either phone calls or whatsoever. Have those recorded, because at the end of the day, people change their mind and they say that we didn't discuss this, then it becomes a problem for you to prove that. But I mean, it'll always come to reasonable accommodation. So hence I said it mustn't be something that will cause the company to come to a hardship, but it should be something that the company is able to accommodate. And what is the expectation of, if somebody outside says reasonable accommodation, to what level is that particular accommodation? So hence you have a neutral person that's sitting there and you need to present your case to say, this is the reasonable accommodation that I did, to assist this particular person. Either I purchased magnifying glasses for this person, I purchased these programs. So if you are able to prove these things, and at the end of the day you are not able to, or that particular person was not able to work because of their particular impairment, yes, it will come to incapacity to a certain extent, and then you know that now you need to follow these particular processes. But there is always a starting point that you need to start with, and if you don't start here, you're going to have problems in the future, because of now we're going to come back and ask you, why didn't you do this? Couldn't you have perhaps maybe you could have offered maybe a 10% decrease, because of now you might employ somebody else who would be carrying and all those things. So reasonable accommodation. So it's always about consulting and having an agreement and documenting that particular agreement, because of people change their mind at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was informative.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Jimmy. So as a last point, I'm even scared to say that, because it's going to open up another can of worms, and then we're going to start the conversation again. Just in closing, what is it that you would want to say, things that we just didn't say? Because I know we touched a lot about awareness, which is very, very important, and reasonable accommodation when it comes to, disabilities.
I would, and I mean, it's just repeating things because we covered everything, but just be cautious about what you say in front of people, and learn more. Don't let people teach you, but go out there, learn. And if you need, and I mean, it becomes very difficult when you ask somebody about their disability. So perhaps you can ask if that particular person is willing to talk about their disability before you start talking about their disability, or trying to engage in their particular discussion, because of some people are still accepting their particular impairment, and it's a process, because of some are born with it, and some it happens because of certain events. So I mean, and okay, you said that you don't want to open it. So it's just a matter of if you're going to approach somebody and you want to have that discussion, ensure that that particular person is willing to have that necessary discussion before you can start that necessary discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you, Mr. Makgethe, for coming through.
Thank you for having
This
me.
was very informative. So thank you very much, guys, for watching the episode. I hope you've learned a lot of things, because I mean, we took on a lot of things. And for employers that don't know where to start, so it doesn't have to be expensive. There's just, initiatives and awareness that just needs to be created with the employees. So guys, like I always say with each and every single topic, you don't have to take everything from the episode, but at least take one thing with you. And remember, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And from me, Mpele, adios. Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
1